On liquor store shelves, there are whiskey bottles promoted as symbols of tradition, quality, and sophistication. Luxuriously designed labels, stories of centuries-old history, and proud introductions to distillation techniques all make people believe they are holding a special product. But if you look a bit deeper, behind some of those famous brands are entirely different stories. Inflated marketing campaigns, secrets about production origins, and even controversies that make the entire whiskey-loving community question things. Do these bottles truly deserve their reputation, or are they simply a very cleverly told story? In today's video, we will explore the most controversial whiskeys, starting from top 7 and moving toward the name at the top of the list. Top 7. WhistlePig. WhistlePig has spent years building its image as an icon of premium craft whiskey. Stories of a peaceful farm, carefully selected barrels, and a price tag that is far from cheap have led many to believe they are buying a product created with special care. However, as many began to dig deeper into the origins of this spirit, they discovered that the story might not be as simple as told. For a long time, the majority of this brand's whiskey was actually not distilled at the location they often promoted. Instead, many batches were purchased from large producers, then further aged, bottled, and had the brand story reconstructed around them. This has left many whiskey enthusiasts confused. Does the high price they are paying reflect the true quality of the spirit or the power of a very clever marketing strategy? Leaked internal disputes within the company have only further complicated the brand's reputation. And the question remains, when holding this bottle, what is the buyer actually paying for? Top 6. Hudson Baby Bourbon. Hudson Baby Bourbon was once hailed as one of the icons of the modern craft whiskey wave. Small bottles, unique designs, and the story of a pioneering distiller quickly caught the attention of bourbon lovers. Many believed they were witnessing the revival of a traditional production style, where everything was handcrafted with passion and precision. However, over time, some began to notice that the flavor of this spirit didn't always meet the expectations its reputation created. Part of the reason lay in the aging process in small wooden barrels, which caused the whiskey to quickly achieve a deep color, but sometimes carry a flavor that was too aggressive or lacked the balance many expected. Mixed reviews from the whiskey community began to appear more frequently. Some still appreciate the brand's boldness, but others question whether its fame comes from actual quality or from the engaging marketing story surrounding it. Top 5. Bibb and Tucker. Bibb and Tucker is a name that often appears on liquor shelves with a luxury bottle design and a classic style reminiscent of bygone eras. The brand name itself was inspired by an old term, leading many to believe they were purchasing a whiskey with a long and reliable history. However, as enthusiasts started to look closer, they realized the story behind the brand wasn't quite what the name suggested. The origin of the spirit wasn't always clear, and many details about the production process were often kept quite vague. This led some to feel they were buying a carefully constructed image rather than a product with a truly long history. Nevertheless, the bottle is still sold at a relatively high price, making many wonder, are they paying for the flavor inside or for the sense of nostalgia the brand creates? And when a brand relies too heavily on its story, is that story strong enough to keep drinkers coming back long-term? Top 4. Few Bourbon. Few Bourbon was once seen as a symbol of creativity in the modern whiskey world. With a bold image and a distinct style, the brand quickly attracted those wanting to try something new. However, that very difference sometimes became a double-edged sword. Some appreciated the powerful and unique flavor profile, but many others felt the spirit lacked the balance they expected from a traditional bourbon. As reviews began to surface more frequently on forums and in enthusiast communities, the polarization of opinion became clear. Some consider it a bold step forward in the whiskey industry, while others argue the brand's prominence stems more from its image and promotional strategy than from superior spirit quality. This raises an interesting question. In today's whiskey world, is being different truly enough to create a memorable bottle, or is the most important thing still the delicate balance in every drop? Top 3. Jefferson's Ocean. Jefferson's Ocean is one of the most unique marketing ideas to ever appear in the whiskey world. Barrels are placed on ships and sail the ocean for months, with the promise that the movement of the waves and temperature fluctuations create a special flavor that cannot be replicated on land. This idea immediately captured the attention of whiskey lovers and the media alike. But along with that curiosity, many questions also began to surface. Did the ocean voyage truly make a significant difference in the flavor, or was it just a compelling story used to differentiate it in the market? Some tasters claimed to notice subtle changes, while others felt the difference wasn't significant enough to justify the high price of the product. When the marketing story becomes so prominent that it overshadows the product itself, it sometimes makes drinkers wonder, what truly makes a bottle of whiskey valuable? Top 2. Blade & Bow. Blade & Bow was introduced as a brand honoring long-standing whiskey traditions, with imagery of keys symbolizing the key steps in the distillation process. The luxury bottle design and historical narrative led many to believe they were holding a piece of classic whiskey heritage. However, over time, some began to question whether that story accurately reflected the origin of the spirit inside the bottle. Discussions in whiskey communities often revolve around how much the brand relies on historical imagery and symbols to create its appeal. That doesn't mean the liquid inside is bad, but it makes many wonder if the product's reputation is built more on the external story than on the flavor itself. And when a brand ties itself so closely to images of the past, the natural question arises, does that past truly exist as we've been told? Top 1. Templeton Rye. Templeton Rye was once promoted as a whiskey carrying a long history and stories associated with the Prohibition era. Many were drawn to the image of an old recipe passed down through generations, creating a special rye whiskey. However, over time, new information began to emerge, making the story much more complicated than the initial image suggested. It turned out that the spirit was not entirely produced in the way many had been led to believe. The source of the whiskey was purchased from other producers and then bottled under the Templeton brand. When this truth was revealed, a class action lawsuit was filed, forcing the company to change its product descriptions. This incident became one of the most talked about stories in the modern whiskey industry. It also made many enthusiasts rethink how they evaluate a brand. When the story behind a bottle changes, does the way we perceive its flavor change as well? The whiskey world is always full of fascinating stories, long-standing traditions, and brands with proud histories. But sometimes, behind the beautiful labels and cleverly told stories are truths that make drinkers pause and think. That doesn't mean these bottles aren't worth trying, but it reminds us that understanding the origin and story of a product is always important. If you found this video interesting and want to explore more stories in the whiskey world, remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video so you don't miss any upcoming content.